Hello everyone, a longer video here, but finally we have some good news. The US has reportedly given the green light to allow ATACMS strikes and long-range missile strikes in Russia itself. This is according to the New York Times article as shown here. This is long overdue and should have been given immediately, but at least it's happened now, better late than never I guess. But it is a bit of a mistake I think in announcing it. That's just going to get Russia on high alert, expecting an attack and preparing for it. They should have allowed Ukraine to use it first with no warning and then announce it afterwards. On the positive side, I guess that means that Russia's twitchy-fingered, jumpy SAM operators are going to be even more twitchy-fingered and jumpy. So maybe we'll see another friendly fire incident soon. So the big question, I guess, what can be hit by them? The Institute Study of War released this graphic here, showing all of the military targets within range. This includes various bases, barracks, ammo dumps, and of course, air bases. Unfortunately, the Black Sea Fleet cowering in Novorossiysk are just out of range, so they remain safe. And I think the targets at the outer edge of this graphic may be safe as well, as that would require the ATACMS launcher to get very close to the front lines to launch, making it vulnerable. We usually see HIMARS launch a good 20 kilometres or so beyond the front lines. There's of course also the Crimean Bridge. Ukraine has wanted to sink their fangs into that once again for a while now. This could be the opportunity. So I think the obvious target for the first use of ATACMS in Russia itself is one of the big air bases. As we saw when ATACMS hit Berdyansk and Luhansk in Ukraine, destroying a bunch of helicopters, it forced Russia to effectively abandon those bases, pulling the helicopter fleet into Russia itself and Crimea, where they'd be safer. And when Ukrainian drones targeted the big bomber bases, Russia didn't fully abandon all of them, but they abandoned Kaluga. But a significant number of the jets from other bases like Engels were withdrew out of range. Same as Sevastopol, that was abandoned by Russia as a naval base thanks to repeated missile and marine drone strikes. So I think one of the air bases is going to be the first target here. So let's have a look at which ones Ukraine can hit and what might be there. Highlighted in blue, two bases near the Sea of Azov, Yeysk at the top and Primorsko-Akhtarsk at the bottom. I'll start at the bottom. So this is home to the 960th Assault Aviation Regiment, operating two squadrons of Su-25 attack aircraft. Su-34s have operated from here as well. Google mapping imagery, which is from May 2024, doesn't show Su-34s here, so they may have been moved elsewhere. But you can see a number of Su-25s, so some very nice targets here. I think the bigger target would be a base with Su-34 bombers though. They're a bigger threat with their glide bombs. Yeysk is shown here, the 859th Centre for Combat Application and Crew Training. Right next door as well is a training centre for tall SAM systems. Google Maps doesn't show much here, primarily transport aircraft, although Su-25s and Su-34s have been deployed here in the past. Since the Google Map imagery is from May, it could be out of date and new aircraft are there now. Both of these bases have been hit by drones before. There's a big accumulation of bases in the blue box near Rostov-on-Drone, lots of juicy targets. Given Russian air defences there have completely failed at their job, I would say somewhere here is a good bet for a strike, as the SAM operators are notoriously useless. Taganrog shown here is a major logistics base near Rostov. The aircraft here, all transporters, large Il-76s and smaller An-22s. I think that this has to be in mind as a major target for Ukraine. Whilst not as impressive as taking out a bomber fleet, logistics are massively important. A big strike here could go a long way towards crippling Russia's air transport capabilities. Also in Taganrog, the aviation repair centre shown here. Google imagery showing a number of aircraft here, including an A-50 AWACS. Two of Russia's A-50s were shot down, and they've only had a handful in service in the first place. I assume this one here they're repairing to get back into service, or it's one of the surviving ones undergoing maintenance. Of course, it may not be here now since this imagery is from May. Rostov-on-Drone Airbase, another transport and aviation hub. Home to the 30th Independent Composite Transport Aviation Regiment, equipped with An-12s, An-26, An-148 Il-20s, and then Mi-24 and Mi-26 helicopters. You can see a lot of helicopters are based here. Again, as a transport hub, this would be a major target. Maybe Ukraine can pull a double tap and hit Taganrog and Rostov at the same time. They did that when ATACMS was first sent, hitting 2 helicopter bases on the same time, using multiple ATACMS missiles to hit each one. 2 more bases here just southeast of Rostov. Zernograd here, which is a helicopter base. You can see many helicopters are here, many of them grouped closely together, making them fodder for the ATACMS. I wouldn't be too surprised if this isn't targeted. You have to think that Russia will be scrambling to protect the major fighter and bomber bases in range, and so may overlook something like this. Near it is Kushchovskoye Airbase. This is an interesting one, because Google Maps imagery actually shows a pair of destroyed Su-34s after a Ukrainian drone strike. One of them, a blackened mess on the ground. The other, in slightly better condition, but still a wreck. You can see not too many aircraft are here, at least on Google Maps. Some Su-34s and various trainers. There are also a handful of painted decoys which wouldn't fool anybody. I think Ukraine would have a bigger fish to fry with ATACMS than this. A major one highlighted in blue here, Morozovsk. Shown here you can see that this is home to a number of Su-34 bombers. This base has been hit before. Drones here in August, destroying an ammo dump. And the repair bay here has been hit as well, destroying a couple of Su-34s undergoing repair and maintenance. Su-34s are used to launch glide bombs, so you've got to think that this will be a major target. Another major base here, Milarovo, home to the 31st Guards Fighter Aviation Regiment, flying 2 squadrons of Su-30s, and the 368th Assault Aviation Regiment, operating Su-25s, have also been deployed here. This is a big target. You can see a lot of aircraft on the flight line. This base was the location of Ukraine's first strike on Russian soil, destroying 2 Su-30s with a Tochka U missile in the very early days of the war. I believe, actually, the second day of the war. We'll have a look at Voronezh region here now. A small base here, Butolinovka. This is a small base and one I hadn't heard of until now. I don't think Ukraine has targeted this at all. We can see on Google Maps imagery there are some important aircraft here, Su-34 bombers. So it is a major target, and being smaller and more low-key than the major targets of Milarovo and Morozovsk, this may be easier for Ukraine to hit. I wouldn't rule this one out. I wouldn't be surprised if this base isn't hit by ATACMS first. Not highlighted by the graphic is Borisoglovsk, not far from Voronezh. A very large base. I'm surprised it was overlooked by the graphic creator, as you can see a large number of aircraft here, including key targets Su-34s, but Su-35s, Su-30s and more have been deployed here. It's also used as a training base, and you can see some jet trainers in this image. Ukraine has hit this with drones before as well, hitting the fuel storage in October, and in August, 2 fighters were damaged by drones here. Last one in Voronezh is Voronezh base itself. Weirdly empty on Google Maps. There's an aviation museum to the right, and just a handful of aircraft visible near some hangars. Su-34s and Su-24s. Nothing visible on the flight line. I wonder if the Google Map imagery was taken shortly after the drone attack, and the fighters had been scrambled. This base is officially home to the 47th Composite Guards Aviation Regiment, who operate 2 squadrons of Su-34s, so you'd expect it to have some aircraft. So despite it appearing empty here, it must be a key target. Next up highlighted, Kursk Air Base, on Google Maps shown here, home to the 105th Guards Mixed Aviation Division flying Su-30s. However, I don't think the aircraft would actually be the major target here. Check this graphic of yesterday's drone and missile strike. You can see Kursk was used to launch swarms of Shahed drones. I wouldn't be surprised if Ukraine doesn't use ATACMS to smash Russia's Shaheds here. On to our final 2 now, not far from Belarus. Sheshcha Airbase here, an odd airbase with a circular layout, a transport hub in Bryansk, home to the 566th Military Transport Aviation Regiment, flying An-124 aircraft. Check the aircraft in the top left, they look like prime fodder for ATACMS grouped up like that. Finally, Kaluga Air Base, this one completely empty. So this used to be a bomber base using two 22M bombers. But after a pair of Tu-22s were destroyed here in late 2022 by drones, this base was pretty much abandoned by Russia. Which is more evidence of the effectiveness that an ATACMS strike would have. If Ukraine hit a few air bases hard, destroying a number of aircraft, then I think all of these bases in range would be vulnerable, and Russia may end up pulling the aircraft out, as they did with Kaluga. It's baffling that it's taken until now for long-range missiles to be allowed to hit them. Going back to Kaluga, there are a few little oddities here. So there's a number of Tu-22M husks, like this one, scattered around the base with holes in them and parts removed. I assume these are being cannibalized for spares. There are 8 of these husks scattered around. Could be decoys, but why place decoys at an effectively abandoned base? Even Millwall fans won't fall for that. However, there is at least one decoy here. Now, this may come as a shock to you, but this here actually isn't a real Tu-22M. Hopefully Ukraine doesn't fall for this and wasting ATACMS on it. So, I've covered air bases here, but we can't rule out other bases and other targets as well. There are many different ammo dumps and barracks and training centres and storage facilities, all within range. Ukraine could decide to hit one of those with ATACMS first, but I thought I'd take a look at air bases as they have to be considered the key targets. We also can't rule out the Crimean Bridge. That is very well defended, but missiles have got through near it. Remember, the ferries nearby that got hit by Neptune and ATACMS, and Ukraine has spent months picking away at Russia's air defence in Crimea, which is notoriously shaky at the best of times. So we can't rule that out. Personally, I think ATACMS will make its mark hitting an airbase, and I have a feeling it will be one of the transport hubs that gets hit first, either Taganrog or Rostov. Maybe both. Now, before I finish, I'm going to mention a fundraiser for Pasha. He's a Ukrainian soldier we've raised money for in the past. You may remember he took part in the amphibious operations in Krinky over the Dnipro River, and he lost his leg because of a mine there. In the past, we raised money for radios for his unit, and after he lost his leg, for rehabilitation in the US. He's since rejoined the Ukrainian army. This time as a drone operator. He's raising money for drones and antennas and has requested the donations here to go to my PayPal initially and then be sent to him in a lump sum later. My PayPal is in the description. Not my real name, of course, here. Big thanks to everybody who's helped out so far. Thanks for watching the video and take care, everybody.